overall theme for the season, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I would say the theme for this season is, in some ways, make it personal. I mean, Sam and Dean, last season was the darkness, the apocalypse, this big, world-shaking event. But I think this season we want to keep the stakes high, the danger high, but the things that are going to be threatened, the things that are going to be in danger are people that are very important to Sam and Dean. So, and we're going to bring back a lot of people we know. Obviously, Mama's coming back. People like Jody are coming back. And we're going to introduce some people we think are very cool as well. But that becomes kind of the key point of contention. The season is, it's a hunter. This is, I would call it more the hunter season. Last few seasons have been very heavily angel demon. The focus is on hunters, both American, British, different approaches, what works, what doesn't, how they get along. In episode 6, we're going to essentially something we've never seen before. It's essentially a hunter's wake. We'll get some ideas in terms of what Sam and Dean are. How they're viewed by the other hunters, how they view other hunters. Again, it's all about building out this world that we have talked about for many years, and we've explored at some points with the Roadhouse and things like that, but it's not something we've really dived heavily into for a while.
Is there anything supernatural that you didn't see playing out that you put into this next season?
In terms of didn't see playing out more ways?
Like, if there's something you wanted in Supernatural that hasn't been done before, did you?
Yeah, I think the idea of, something we've talked about for a while is the idea of what would it do to the guys if Mary came? Because she's so much the core of what they do and who they are, and her death started everything. So, and they found out more about her history, and they found out things like that. So, bringing her back, it's about her and it's about her story, but more than that, it's about how Sam and Dean spin off. These are two guys, and Jared said this, I think, very well on the panel, that really were raised by their father, but their father was very single-minded. They kind of raised each other. What does it mean for them to have a mom? Because there's this idea of mom, this kind of mythological idea, or this very romanticized idea, and the stories, John's told them, there's a real person. And Sam and Eve had the good fortune to kind of meet their mom, in the past a couple of times. They have some idea of who she is, and I don't know if they ever got a real clear idea of who she was at the moment she died, what she was struggling with, what she was going through, and more than that, now coming back after 30 years gone, this huge gap in time, what's it going to be like for her to get back into this world, to be back into a place where her sons are grown, her sons are hunters, that's the last thing she ever wanted for them, and how does she react to that? So I think that's kind of the thing we've talked about off and on for a while, that being able to put it in the end of last season and explore more this season, I think is going to pay real dividends.
And do you think the boys' relationships will differ when she finally meets him?
I think so. I think both Sam and Dean, one thing we're trying not to do is, I guess you would say, drive an unnecessary way between Sam and Dean. The truth is they both want their mom back. But, I think Sam in some ways kind of understands her a little bit better. Sam walked away from hunting, so did Mary. Sam, so they have that in common. But at the same time, as we'll see, Mary's a born, hard-ass hunter, and I think Dean really responds to that side of her character. So I think it's not that one of them doesn't like her or one of them likes her, it's more like they both are kind of embracing different things about her, and she can be a different person to both of them. Also, she has kind of a really cool dynamic that's kind of evolves, with Castiel, and kind of, they're both strangers in a strange land in a way, coming down from heaven, they both have that experience, and I think they have some really nice scenes and some nice stuff that
With Castiel having a lot of his powers back, you said in a recent interview that he's going to go to great lengths to help get Sam back. How are you going to keep it from the obvious thing of him being able to solve all the boys' problems?
Well, I think one of the things, the biggest problem with Castiel, honestly, in terms of case of the week type stories we want to call it, was teleporting. Because if he could be anywhere quickly, it messes up timelines a lot. That power got taken away. The wings have been broken. So you've got a cast that is very capable in the moment, in fight, and things like that. But you don't have a cast necessarily that is magic in terms of finding out what went wrong. If he's on a case, he still has to work it. He still has to do the things the boys do in terms of, is it this, is it that, moving from one to one. So I think that even cast with some of his powers back or more engaged isn't necessarily going to overpower stories in the way that I think maybe we feared he would in past seasons. And you'll see, especially in the back half of our season, cast more involved in some things like that.
Can you talk about when Lucifer will be introduced in the new season?
We'll see Lucifer, at least we'll understand what he's doing in terms of hopping from body to body to body in episode 1.
Okay.
and we'll be going there. We'll know that Crowley's on that trail, and then kind of that quest to kind of where's Lucifer, where is he going to ultimately land? We'll kind of wrap up within about the first 3 episodes. So yeah, we'll introduce him pretty much right out of the gate.
Piggybacking on that, why is Rick Springfield the right guy?
Well, I think it was interesting for us because you want someone. It always feels weird to me when an actor is cast to play a musician, because some actors are musical, and like Jared, for example, Jensen, for example, is very musical. But this is someone we want to be able to get on stage. Someone will be very natural there, and so really kind of came down to a conversation. It was like, okay, let's say we wanted a rock star. Let's say we wanted someone like that. Who's available? One, who's available, but two, who can play that part? Because it's actually a really challenging part. I mean, it's been played by really good actors. It's a very layered and complex part. It's not a mustache twirling arch villain. Like, it is someone whose problems, in terms of all of our problems on our show, are born from family, born from kind of this parental relationship. And as we went through a list of people who could do both, it's actually a really short list. And I had seen Rick Springfield in like The Flash, and we'd seen him in True Detective, and he brings that. He brings a certain amount of gravitas. He brings a certain amount of weight, but at the same time, he's someone that can still rock. So I mean, I think that in that way, when he was that potential was raised to us, we were like, yes, that's our guy. And he started to shoot on Friday, and I think it's working out very well.
Can you see any sort of timeline for the boys' reunion?
I think, Sam and Dean will be back together in the Impala within the first 2 to 3 episodes.
And can you talk about how, because you have 2 different family dynamics now coming back together, like will they intersect, or
in terms of Sam and Dean, and then what's the other one?
Crowley
and Rowena. Yeah, I mean, I think that we want to build to a point where you can have more kind of overlap there. I mean, Crowley and Rowena, I think, have a really interesting dynamic, but I think to limit either one of them to just having scenes with the other, I think does a disservice to the characters and sometimes does a disservice to the actors. Like, I want to see the scene where Rowena and Mary have to come up with something on their own. You know what I mean? Like, that's interesting. And I think you don't want things to be too sectioned off. I think at first in the season, it's probably a little bit more, because everyone's just really on there. Gotta save Sam, gotta find Lucifer. But I think as the season progresses, you'll see those walls break down a little bit, and you'll see some unlikely alliances forming, as always on Supernatural.
Thank you.